Welcome to the Disney Wedding Podcast. This show is brought to you by Carrie Hayward's Fairy Tale Weddings Guide, the only guidebook and bridal organizer tailored exclusively to Disney's fairy tale weddings at Walt Disney World. I'm Carrie Hayward, and each week I feature Disney wedding updates, money-saving tips, and interviews with wedding vendors and real Disney couples. I also cover honeymoons, anniversaries, and engagements at the Disney parks and resorts. Join me now as the Disney Wedding Podcast celebrates romance at Disney destinations. Today on the Disney Wedding Podcast, I am speaking with Randi Clark about her wedding at The View at Walt Disney World's Swan and Dolphin Resort. I thought you guys would be interested to hear how she chose this location and how everything turned out, and also to hear about the products that she makes for other Disney weddings, including cake toppers, and the fact that she has an officiant service. So today she's going to tell us about all of these things that she offers and about how her own wedding went at Walt Disney World. Welcome, Randi.
Hello. So excited to be here.
Thanks for being on the show today. Before we get into talking about your wedding, can you tell my listeners a little bit about how you started Clark and Dagger and what kinds of things you offer?
Absolutely. So in 2020, David, my now husband, and I bought a 3D printer because we were going to be going to Star Wars Celebration, which is the big Star Wars convention that happens every couple of years. And we were making cosplay pieces for ourselves. And since the pandemic had us stuck at home and didn't have access to 3D printers elsewhere, we bought one, and it took over our lives, and we were making fun pieces, and people were seeing things that we made and was like, oh, you should sell that, and oh my gosh, I would totally buy that. And it just kind of evolved all on its own, and we started with one printer, and now we have 5. And it just very much grew from very small cosplay pieces all the way up through very intricate designs of cake toppers and centerpieces and pet replicas. But I think our most popular item, and I think one of the coolest things that we make, is we make cake ornaments. So we take a photo of your cake, multiple photos of your cake, and we make a replica of it. You have this beautiful cake, you spend all this time designing it, and you're left with photos and the memory of what your cake tasted like. But now you can have it as an ornament or a larger display piece as well. So we make all kinds of different things like that. David is incredibly talented at painting. He painstakingly hand paints everything that he makes and puts a lot of time and effort. So every piece that we make very much has a lot of love and care that goes into it. And because we are Orlando locals, we offer free resort delivery to any couples that are getting married at Disney. We'll drop them off, leave them at concierge for you to pick up, or meet you and deliver them. Or we do ship worldwide as well. We've had packages go to Germany or the UK, all kinds of places. And it's a lot of fun to track and see where our different products have gone.
That's great. Yeah, I got a replica made of our wedding cake as an ornament. This was before you guys set up business. And I have to say that as someone who loves cake and was very specific about the design of our cake and felt that it was one of the most important decor pieces at our wedding, it's so great to have a replica so that, like you say, the actual cake is gone, but you can still see this replica of your cake on your Christmas tree or wherever you want to put it forever.
Absolutely. It's a nice little, I'm all about like the memento mori, right? All those little things that go in your memory box and things that spark joy and good memories for you. And I feel like that's one of those things. I can't wait to make our own cake ornament to put on our tree this year as well.
Now, you mentioned that cake ornaments are super popular. Are there any unusual or interesting things that you guys make that maybe people wouldn't have thought of that could be a great addition to their Disney wedding?
We do a lot with centerpieces. Some people don't like florals. I'm not a floral person. I respect those who are. Florals just aren't my thing. Some people want larger centerpieces. So things like that are 12 inches tall, that are larger, we can definitely custom make those. So for example, we made versions of the Haunted Mansion that look really cool and they've got little ghosts inside of them, or the Pixar ball, or all the different castles that are across all the Disney properties. We have made those castles as well. So even if you're not having your wedding at Disney, but you want some Disney touches at your wedding, they're perfect little pieces that can kind of add in and give that little Disney flair.
That's fantastic. So then how did you go from this job to also officiating weddings at Walt Disney World?
So I got into officiating because one of my friends was getting married in Pennsylvania, and she called me up 3 days before her wedding. I was literally packing for her wedding, and she says, Randi, I don't know what I'm going to do. My minister's husband got COVID and she's quarantining, but she might have COVID and she's going to be testing every day. And I don't know if I'm going to have somebody to marry me, and I don't know what's going to happen. And she's just going on in panic mode, as one does when 3 days before your wedding, something goes wrong. And I'm going into problem solving mode. I have her on my ear and I'm just typing in like, how hard is it to, get ordained online? Like Joey from Friends did it. I can do it, right? So I found online American Marriage Ministries, as well as Universal Life Church does online ordination, super simple. So as she's freaking out, she takes a breath and I say, okay, you called me, I'm the problem solver. I said, are you ready for some solutions? And she just was like, yeah, I'm ready. So I told her, I was like, I just got ordained online. Whoever you want to step in for your minister and the off chance that, she does get sick and you need a replacement, I will walk them through how to get ordained. It is free. I'll help. I'll take over this piece for you so you don't have to worry about it. I'll walk them through. I'll make sure they have everything they need. And, just tell me who you want. And she said, you do it. And I was like, oh, well, that was not what I was going for, but sure. We both worked in corporate training. And so we were used to crowds, speaking in front of everybody and all of those things. So she knew that wouldn't be a problem. And so I went to her wedding and I was just waiting for the moment to be tapped in, and I didn't need to be tapped in. Everything went exactly as planned for her, but something sparked in me and I was disappointed that I couldn't do her wedding. And I was like, okay, I need to explore this a little bit. And I had one of our coworkers come up to me after their wedding and say, Randi, you would have done a great job. When I finally proposed to my girlfriend, you're going to be the one to marry us. Fast forward 2 years later, and I will be marrying them next month as well, which is a really fun full circle story. But that's how I got ordained. And then I just kind of let that sit and didn't really do anything with it. But I kept tapping into, I really feel like this is something that I'd be really good at. I feel like I love weddings. I love couples. I love telling stories. I love being able to celebrate all forms of love. And so things fell into place for me. In the Diz Brides group, there was a call for, hey, does anybody know any officiants? We're looking for some new recommended vendors. And I was like, hi, I'm already over here doing 3D printing stuff with David, but I'm willing to throw my hat in the ring. And here we are 2 years later, and I get to work with the best people on one of the best days of their lives and work with the coolest vendors at some of the coolest venues. And I count it an honor anytime somebody chooses me to be their officiant. I love being able to celebrate with them and just be their hype girl and get them all excited about their day and help things run smoothly the best that I can. So I absolutely love the officiating piece of it.
That's awesome. Can you tell my listeners a little bit about your philosophy as an officiant and how you work with couples to get them ready for their big day?
I believe that love is love, and I would never turn any couple away that wanted to get married. My philosophy is if it's legal and the venue allows it, let's do it. I'm all about celebrating love in all of its forms. I love getting to know my couples. I love getting to hear their story. That's a very important piece of the puzzle for me, to learn about how they met and some of their core memories together and how did they fall in love? Why did they love each other? Why is that their human? Why this one? Why did you choose this human that you want to marry and stand up in front of everybody and say, yeah, I choose this one? It's very important to me to get to know their story, and I like to know all the ins and outs of that. So I get to know those stories by having a Zoom meeting with them and getting to know them, as well as talking through different parts of the ceremony and how they want to customize it. So giving them the options of, do you want unplugged or a regular ceremony where everyone can take photos? Does that matter to you? Does it matter to you if we ask who gives this bride away? I'm fairly non-traditional. I tend to lean away from traditions, but I'm very much about whatever my couple wants. So if they want more traditional items, that's completely fine with me. But I also love the out of the box things that I get to do. And I love it when I get a nerdy couple that's like, yeah, can you put in all the Star Wars references and a little bit of Harry Potter? And can you give me like all the Disney references? And I'm like, yes, all the nerd stuff, all the Disney stuff. Let me put all of that in there for you. So I really like to get to know what a couple wants. Do they want it more romantic? Do they want it more fun and lighthearted? And I really try to match their vibe. That is really important to me because the ceremony really kicks off the rest of their wedding day. And so you want that vibe to be right for the rest of their wedding day. If their whole day is set up as like sweet and romantic, that's how you want the ceremony. If it's going to be an absolute party, then that's, we want the ceremony to reflect that. So that's very much how I approach all of my couples and building my ceremonies.
That's fantastic. Where can my listeners go to find out more about your officiant services or about Clark and Dagger?
So you can find Clark and Dagger on Instagram at Clark and the word and Dagger. And you can find Ever Afters by Randi on Instagram as well, or Ever Afters by Randi. That's Randi with an I.com as well.
So now I would love to hear how you and David decided that you wanted to have your wedding at the View at the Swan and Dolphin.
I watched the Swan Reserve get built because we're locals here. So it was very exciting watching the groundbreaking and watching the hotel go up and just seeing how beautiful it was. And when it opened in November of 2021, I was very excited to see the photos from the View. We weren't even engaged yet, but I was just like, this is going to be an epic venue. This is going to be gorgeous. And a month after they opened, so December of 2021, we went to the Swan Reserve, the restaurant there, Amare, for my birthday. And as we were taking some family photos down by the Christmas tree they had in the lobby, a really sweet concierge girl named Ashley came up to us and was like, hey, can I take a family photo for you guys? Instead of you guys taking selfies, and we're like, yes, please. And she was so sweet and kind. And David was like, hey, so it's my girlfriend's birthday and she really wants to go see the View. Is there any way that like you can get us up there? And she's like, let me talk to my manager. You guys go to your reservation. Let me talk to her and see if I can take you up there when you're done. And we're like, oh my gosh, that would be like amazing. So we go to dinner at Amare. It was absolutely wonderful. And she came up about halfway through and said, hey, so when you're done with dinner, come down and see me. My manager says I can't let you into the ballroom, but I can let you into the foyer and the terrace. And you can at least go see that part. And we're like, yes, absolutely. This is phenomenal. And we went up to the 15th floor and we walked in and I was like, this place is stunning. I want to get married here. Again, we were not engaged yet, but I knew that that's where I wanted to get married. It was stunning. It was beautiful. It wasn't going to need a lot of decor. It had the elegance that I loved and wanted, and I was obsessed with it. So cue to 6 months later, we got engaged at Disneyland. And when we came home from that Disneyland trip, within a week, I had contacted the Swan Reserve. I was like, hey, so I'm looking for October 2024. I know it's end of June 2022, but you got any openings for me? And they immediately put me in contact with Just Mary. And by the end of July of 2022, we had our October 2024 date in the books, which is not normal. Normally they book about 18 months out, but I think because they were still so new and hadn't been booking a lot, they couldn't pre-book weddings. They still didn't have a whole lot of weddings on the books. And so I say it's pixie dust. They let us book over 2 years in advance. And so we were given our date. We just asked for any Saturday in October of 2024, as long as it wasn't Halloween. And they came back with, how does October 12th, 2024 sound? And we said, yes, let's do it. And so our wedding date was set.
Now, how many guests did you invite and how many were able to make the trip?
I think we invited about 90 and we wanted to end around 75. And then, of course, Hurricane Milton came through the week of our wedding. And I think we went from 72 to we wound up with 68 because we had about 4 people who couldn't fly in just based on where they were coming from or flights getting canceled and rearranged and rescheduled and all of those issues that happen during hurricane season when one comes through the week of your wedding. So we wound up with 68 at the end.
Got it. And did you set up a room block at the Swan and Dolphin for your guests?
We did. We set up a room block at the Swan Reserve. The minimum block was 10 rooms, and we made sure that we had it set up there because we really wanted the guests who were coming in and wanted to stay all at the same place. You know, everything was going to be the Swan Reserve. The ceremony, the cocktail hour, the reception, everything was right there. So it made it really easy for anyone coming in and just wanting to stay in one property. We did have other guests that chose to stay elsewhere, which was obviously totally fine because it's really easy to get to the Swan Dolphin properties. But we did set up a room block there, and they were fantastic to work with.
That's great. So you talked about you chose the date because you wanted just what you could get in October. Did you choose a specific time of day?
Well, we knew we wanted a nighttime wedding because I'm not an early morning person. Getting up at, 3 or 4 a.m. for hair and makeup was an absolute no for me if I didn't have to. So the standard time for ceremonies at that time of year is 5:30. And so because we knew we wanted nighttime, we did 5:30. And then you have to be out of the reception space. Like your reception has to end at 10 so that all your vendors can be done with strike at 11 because, again, you're on the top floor of the hotel. So we got to be respectful of quiet hours. We could have added an extra hour beforehand. So we could have had our ceremony at 4:30. So from 4:30 to 5, and then cocktail hour from 5 to 6, and then a 4-hour reception if we had chose to add on and pay for an extra hour at the beginning. Our other option would have been to move down to one of the downstairs ballrooms and have like an after hours party. There's no rooms right on top of the first floor. So you've got some buffer room there that you can be a little bit louder with your DJ and not disturb anybody that's sleeping. But we chose to do neither one of those and just have our ceremony at 5:30 with the standard timing and be out by 10.
Got it. Okay. So I know they do have multiple venues at the View. Can you tell my listeners which ones you chose for the ceremony, the cocktail hour, and the reception?
I wanted everything to be on the top floor because I love the look of everything on the 15th floor there. And I don't like the heat. So I knew I wanted everything indoors that I was going to be part of. So we asked if we could do the ceremony inside the foyer area instead of the terrace. They tend to do the ceremonies outside on the terrace and then move people inside to the foyer for cocktail hour. But we flip-flopped that, and they said that wasn't a problem, and it worked out really, really well. And so we had our ceremony inside the foyer, and then our guests went out to the terrace for cocktail hour, and then we went inside the View ballroom for our reception time.
Can you recommend any vendors that you used for your event?
So many vendors that were so amazing. Every one of our vendors went above and beyond for us, and we count them as friends at this point because they were just so wonderful. And again, we had booked them so early, and they were with us every step of the way. So for hair and makeup, I had Stacey Otto, and she is just a phenomenal human being and was absolutely wonderful. I also booked a trial with her because I get kind of weird about having my hair and makeup done, and sometimes I don't feel like I look like myself when it's done. And so I ended up with a trial ahead of time since she and I are both local, and it was the best thing I could have done. And I felt super, super comfortable, plus got to know her, and she's just absolutely wonderful. My hair stayed all day, all night, even through dancing and walking over to the fountain at the end of the night to take nighttime photos in front of the dolphin fountain. It was absolutely perfect. And she did all the hair and makeup for my bridesmaids as well. She did have a second person with her, Shireen, who was also wonderful, but her team was stunning to work with. She also met me at my hotel at 4:45 in the morning on Monday after the wedding for a Universal Park shoot, and was just absolutely as sweet as anything at 4:45 in the morning, even when I wasn't, and just wanted to hear all about the wedding on Saturday. So highly recommend her. She's amazing. For photo, we had Steph Caldwell of Caldwell Photographic Studio. She and Jacob were absolutely amazing with us. They did our engagement shoot. They did a full day with us for our wedding, and then also the Universal Park shoot on the Monday after the wedding. And they've already delivered some of our sneak peeks, and they were absolutely amazing. And they're just such great people to work with. I always say that you should hire vendors that you vibe with, because they're going to be with you a lot throughout the day, and they bring their energy into your wedding. So it's really important not to just pick vendors that do good work, but that you vibe with as well, and you don't mind hanging around and being up in your space the entire time. So they were great. And then our videographers were merrily married. Nick and Prince are phenomenal. We asked them if they could film a couple of reels for us and some transitions, because David and I are both Instagram people. We love reels. So they even filmed some, extra stuff for us. And they also made sure to give us extra footage that was vertical that we could go ahead and post on our socials instead of just horizontal, like for your TV and things like that. They really worked with us to make sure that our day was captured the way we wanted to, and it focused on the parts that we wanted to as well. Obviously, we did a lot of our decor with Clark and Dagger. That was obviously huge for us, and it took us a long time to make all of our centerpieces and our table numbers, our cake toppers, our pet replicas, and our sweetheart table decor as well, on top of some of the cosplay pieces that we had his groomsmen wear as well. My florist was Lee Forest Design. Lee knocked it out of the park. My bouquet was put in a Leia lightsaber hilt, which we delivered to him ahead of time. And those lightsaber hilts they don't have a lot of space inside of them to put florals. So I really didn't have a whole lot of idea of how he was going to do this. But as soon as I handed him the hilt, he's like, this is the coolest thing ever. This is like a real metal lightsaber. And I'm going to have so much fun with this. And I gave him very little direction. I told him what colors I wanted. I told him I don't know florals. This is not my thing. I do whatever you want here. The colors I want. Don't import anything. Use whatever you would like. And our florals were absolutely stunning. And then our DJ was Jenny with our DJ Rocks. Jenny completely got our vibe. We are emo 90s kids. So we love like the early 2000s music. We love emo music. We love mashups. And we told her all of that. Like we want our dance floor just to be going at all times. Don't play full songs, just read the room. We trust you. Have some fun with it. Throw in some Disney things. And she was phenomenal. We watched the Epcot fireworks, the Luminous Symphony of Us fireworks, and she piped in the music for that out on the terrace when we went out there as well. She just went above and beyond. And then we added on their photo booth as well, which our guests absolutely loved. And their photo booth also had a video option. So we didn't even know that. And our guests were recording videos for us all night. And it was really fun to watch, like the day after. It was fantastic. So we added that on as well. We also had a live painter. So we had event painting by Jamie. That was David's one big request, is he wanted a live painter to come. We are big art people. Obviously, with what we do with Clark and Dagger and painting, it's a big deal to us. And so we found Jamie and absolutely loved his work. And we got to go home that night with a painting of our first dance, which we will cherish forever. It was absolutely amazing. For our ceremony, we had live musicians. So we had a violinist and a cellist. So Rachel Durham Music. She was so amazing. So we went in with very specific music that we wanted for our processional and for our ceremony. David really wanted to walk down the aisle to the Avengers theme, because his groomsmen, they've always been called, like, they call themselves the Avengers. They each have their own Avenger that they kind of like think they are. And so he really wanted to walk down the aisle to the Avengers theme, but not just a very specific part. And so she made sure that it was perfect and right, and it was the right spot, and it was phenomenal. And I know David said that, like, as he's walking down the aisle to the Avengers theme, like, he got a little emotional, like, oh my gosh, like, I'm Tony Stark. I am walking down the aisle of my wedding to, like, the Avengers theme. Like, this is amazing. And for our officiant, he is a huge Britney Spears fan. So she's like, hey, do you want me to play Circus for him to walk down the aisle to? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And so she played like a little snippet of that for him to walk down the aisle to. And then I struggled with what I wanted my music to be because I go to weddings. I walk down to processional music all the time. And I had a very hard time choosing what I wanted to walk down the aisle to. And I love Taylor Swift. So I figured it'd be a Taylor Swift song, but I didn't want it to be something that everyone else had done. And then I was scrolling through Instagram one night and I saw a violin cover of The Black Parade by My Chemical Romance. And I immediately sent her that reel. And I was like, can you do this? And she's like, yes. I can do this. I will put the accompaniment together for the cellist and you will walk down the aisle to The Black Parade. And within 3 days, she had a sample for me to listen to. And she's like, do you like this? Am I going in the right direction? And I think I listened to it like 15 times and was like nearly crying because she just nailed exactly what I wanted. And then because we had Chopper coming in as our ring bearer, we also needed some Star Wars music in there. And so everything we asked of her, she did it with a smile. And we told her for the pre-ceremony music, play whatever you want. Like we like the Bridgerton type, themes, like the poppy music as, string music, but play things that you like to play. We want you to enjoy your time here. We're not going to be listening to it, but we want it to be fun because our ceremony is going to be fun. So we want the music to be fun. And she just nailed every bit of it. She was so fantastic to work with. I absolutely adored her. And then our planner was Just Mary. Danielle from Just Mary was absolutely phenomenal with us and was with us every step of the way, even like the week of the hurricane. And it's a week of our wedding and there's a hurricane coming. She was constantly checking in on us, making sure that we were okay, that if we needed anything, do we need to change things up? Do we have guests that we need to like get into hotel rooms? Like what's going on? And she was there every step of the way with us as well. Sam with Martel Event Services came and steamed my dress last minute. Me not thinking through things, did not think about having my dress steamed ahead of time. David loves to steam clothes. He's actually really good at it. And so he was like, yeah, I'll steam your dress, not thinking he can't steam my dress the night before the wedding. Like it just did not compute in our brains that like that is not a viable option. And so Catherine reached out to me a couple weeks before the wedding. She's like, hey girl, do you have somebody steaming your dress? And I was like, yeah, David, no, I don't. Do you have room to like squeeze me in? Because I did not think this through. And she's like, yeah, we got you. And then of course the hurricane came in and they had other weddings that weekend. And so I messaged and I was like, hey, take care of your other brides. Like I will handle this. You guys have so much on your plate. You don't have electricity. One of you doesn't have internet. And Sam was like, nope, I will fit you in. I've got you. Like I will take care of you. So they came in clutch for me last minute to make sure that my dress was steamed. So I have to give them a shout out.
That's fantastic. So since you are an officiant yourself, how did you choose the officiant for your own wedding?
So that was really difficult for me because that's my job. That's what I do. And it's very hard to pick somebody to be you at your own wedding. And David kept teasing me and saying, are you just going to like marry us? Like, I was like, no, that's not legal. I can't do that. So my cousin, Zach, is a very good public speaker. He is also ordained and his dad was a pastor. And so he learned from him. And I asked him to be our officiant because I could not imagine not having him as part of my wedding. He and I grew up like brother and sister, not like cousins. And he's been with me through every step of my life. And I just appreciate him so much. And so he stepped in and I was like, hey, I really want you to do this honor for me. I know like there's a lot of pressure because like you're doing my job at a wedding. And he's like, oh my gosh, yes, I'll do this. And he wrote the entire script. I only did a few parts of it that were just like a little more technical, and he did amazing and made it a lot of fun like we wanted. I really wanted something lighthearted and fun. David and I are not romantic people at all. We're sentimental, but we are not romantic people. And so we really wanted it to reflect that. And he did such a good job of getting that vibe for us.
Can you tell my listeners a little bit more about the entertainment that you added for the reception?
Yes, we had a jam-packed reception. So not only did we have the DJ and the photo booth that we talked about that were absolutely phenomenal, we had Jamie as our live painter that was there as well. We also got to go out and watch the fireworks. So all of these things are going on. Plus, we had lion dancers come in for our wedding as well. So the Walam Temple, we hired them to bring in 2 lions and do the whole ceremony. And it was just so amazing. They were phenomenal. And I love to point this out that one of the lions that was there was another Disney bride. So we had made their cake topper that was of their lion that they dance in for their wedding. And we had gone to their wedding. And so then they got to come to our wedding as their lion. And it was just a very cool full circle moment for us to also have them there. So when they finished up their routine, I literally ran out of the ballroom after them to give them like a ginormous hug. And it was very, very cool. And again, we're very sentimental people, and it meant a lot to us that they got to come back for our wedding with their purple lion. It was amazing. So in 3 hours, we crammed a lot in there.
Can you tell my listeners about any favorite menu items or cake flavors that you had at the reception?
The food at the Swan Reserve is so good. Oh my gosh. There was not one item that was not good. So we chose a plated dinner. So we chose a beef dish and a chicken dish, and there's also a vegetarian option as well. But the cool thing about the Swan Reserve is you get to go to your own private tasting, and so you get to try things, just you guys and your extra couple of people, and have your own private tasting. And it was just a phenomenal experience. So we got to try the steak, and that blew everybody out of, like, everybody. We told everybody, get the beef. The beef is so good. You must get the beef. And a lot of people got the beef and are still raving about the beef. The chicken was also amazing. It was like a spinach ricotta stuffed chicken. It was delicious. And then there was the truffle whipped mashed potatoes. And when I tell you I could eat those every day, I would still eat those every day. I loved them so much at the tasting. I asked for an extra bowl to be at the sweetheart table when I got my meal, and they delivered me an extra bowl of truffle whipped mashed potatoes. So that was amazing. They also had your normal past appetizers that were all fantastic. Again, nothing we tried wasn't great. But they also have an option where you can add on a raw bar. And we are huge seafood lovers. So we added on the raw bar option at cocktail hour. So it gave you lobster tails and oysters and shrimp and crab legs. And everyone was raving about that as well. And we also got some of that as well because we had them bring in our cocktail hour food to the reception space during cocktail hours, so we could kind of eat that in peace away from everybody. And everything was absolutely phenomenal. The other thing is we could add on Mickey bars. So you can add on Mickey bars, or you can add on Mickey ice cream sandwiches. And so we chose to add on Mickey ice cream sandwiches, which was a lot of fun to have during fireworks. And as far as cake, I have the sweet tooth. I'm the one who wants all the sugary things. But David and I both love matcha. And we asked the bakery ahead of our tasting. We said, hey, we know this is not one of the flavors that is on your menu, but is there any way that you could make us a matcha cake? Figuring the worst they can do is tell us no, and we'll pick something else, and that's completely fine. And they came back with, yeah, absolutely, we can do it, and we'll even have some for you to try at your tasting when you come in, which was above and beyond. That was so amazing. So we got to try the matcha cake, and it was the orange cake and another cake. I don't even remember because the matcha was just so amazing. So we chose a matcha cake with a white chocolate filling and the buttercream. And it was so fantastic. Even our guests who, might not be huge matcha fans even liked it. It wasn't a very strong flavor. It was definitely subtle, and the buttercream, the white chocolate, everything was absolutely phenomenal. The bakery went above and beyond for us to do that, and it was delicious.
That's fantastic. Before we get into the timeline, can you tell my listeners a little bit about the photo shoot you did with your wedding photographer at Universal Studios?
Yes. So because we were not Disney fairy tale wedding couple. We can't do a park shoot at Disney, and that's okay because we got to do one at Universal, which was amazing. So Stephanie Caldwell offers Universal park shoots. So we added that on to our photo package with her. And so we chose the Monday after our wedding. I decided to get a different dress for that because I was afraid that if anything happened to my dress, I wouldn't have time to dry clean it, fix it, and I didn't want to have to stress about getting that dress cleaned or wearing a dirty dress or a ripped dress or anything like that for that park shoot. So I did get a second dress for that. But we had 2 hours with Steph and Jacob in the park. We stayed at the Portofino the night before so that we had easy access to the parks, just got on the boat and went straight to the entrance of City Walk. And we got early entry into Islands of Adventure. So we literally met them in the line. David and I are Universal Orlando annual pass holders. So were they. So we got in and went straight back to Hogwarts and Hogsmeade and started taking some photos there, and then hopped on the train and went over to the Universal side, and the team members over there were so nice. Apparently they don't like saying no if you're in a wedding dress, which was phenomenal. They let us in some back entrances. They let us use elevators they don't normally let people use, and they kind of walked us through certain areas so that we could get shots that we wanted. Everyone there was absolutely phenomenal. When you walk in a wedding dress and, the groom is in a tux, it was fantastic. So we did about 2 hours with them there and let her work her magic with some fun shots. We brought our wands. It was a really fun experience that I highly recommend for anyone who maybe can't have a Disney park shoot or, prefers Universal. Highly, highly recommend doing that as well.
That's wonderful. So can you give my listeners a timeline of how the wedding day all fit together?
Yes. So David and I wanted to do a first look, which is really important to us to have that time to get photos ahead of time. We didn't want to cram in all of the bridal party and couples photos after the ceremony, knowing we had a short reception timeline. We planned for our first look, so everything kind of went backwards from there. So we had 2 suites at the Swan Reserve, one for the guys, one for the girls to get ready in. So Stacy and Shreen showed up at 8 a.m. to start hair and makeup with the girls, and we were done about noontime, and I had 3 bridesmaids and a junior bridesmaid and myself. So there's 5 of us getting hair and makeup done. And then Steph and Jacob and Nick and Prince all got there around noontime and started shooting detail shots. And then Stacy got me into my dress and we did a first look reveal with my side of the bridal party. And then at 1:30, we went downstairs to the wine wall outside of Amare to do our first look. So we got our first look done from 1:30 to 2. And then we did our bridal party shots from about 2 to 2:45, 2 to 3-ish. And then 3 to 4 was just David and I getting some shots outside, inside. It wasn't too hot of a day. My dress was very heavy, very big, and I don't like being hot. So I was like, if we go outside to take photos, great. If we don't, that's also okay. I was very open to however the weather was. But we did go outside and take some photos from that 3 to 4 time. And then we planned for downtime from 4 to 5. So that gave us buffer time if we were running late on anything, or we just wanted to film some reels or go back to our room and touch up, or if there's anything that needed to happen. And then while David and I were taking couples photos from 3 to 4, the groomsmen went and helped set up the arch and get Chopper in place and, the things that Just Mary couldn't touch that were ours. The groomsmen went and helped all of that get set up ahead of time so that by the time at 5 o'clock came around and we knew we were need to be ready to be lined up for the ceremony, that we would have everything ready to go. So then we got upstairs about 5:15. Ceremony started right on time at 5:30. We were done at 6. We did family photos until about 6:30. And then David and I went into the reception space to eat our cocktail, our food, have my dress bustled, and practice our first dance in that time. So we had a choreographed first dance. We took dance lessons at the Fred Astaire Dance Studio in Winter Park, and we needed that time to practice because we had never practiced with a poofy dress before. And so we were really glad that we got to practice that on the dance floor ahead of time so that we nailed our first dance. Our reception started at 7. We got introduced in, we did our first dance, and then we did a dance with our daughter, Boston. We just did like a cute little family dance with some of our favorite songs that have dances that go to them. And then it was food and speeches. Fireworks were at 9. And then we did our private last dance at 10. And then we whisked off to the Dolphin Fountain to have some photos taken with our photo team. Well, everybody else who still wanted to hang out went down to the bar at the Swan Reserve to kind of wait for us. And then we came back and hung out with everybody until about midnight. Probably about like 20 people stayed behind just to hang out with us a little bit more. So it was a very long day.
Got it. Okay. So out of all of this, what ended up being your favorite memory of your wedding day?
All of it. All of it is like the best memory ever. But my favorite memory of the day has got to be our first look. Like I said, neither David or I are super romantic people between the two of us. Like, we're very sentimental, but we're not the super romantic couple. But all the anxiety of the day and being like separated for the first half of the day while getting ready and being with our people, and then just that anticipation of that look. And he had never seen my dress or anything or everything put together. It was a very emotional moment, and it was like, okay, this is really happening. Like, everything's happening. We're here. This is like, once we got through this, like, it's gonna be all fun from here. That was a great memory. And I think our other favorite memory is Chopper being our ring bearer for the wedding. So, pretending that we couldn't find the rings, and then having the Star Wars theme being played by Rachel, and then the doors opening up and Chopper is coming down the aisle was a very fun memory that we have. So those are two of our favorites.
That's wonderful. When you guys were planning, what were some of the most important aspects of the event where you focused your attention or your budget?
We knew our venue, so we knew there was going to be minimums with that. So like, that was the major part of the budget, was the location, but we knew where we wanted to have the wedding. So that was easy. But for me, like I said, florals might not have been important, but photography and videography were very, very important to us. I tell couples all the time, you are left with 2 things after your wedding day: your memories and your photos and videos. So always get the videographers. Always get the videography. Don't skip it. But those were very, very important to me. And again, working in the industry and working with people, I knew who I wanted. That was very important to me. And on top of that, having pieces of us as part of the day was very, very important. So not just that we had pieces that we made from Clark and Dagger, but each of our table centerpieces represented one of the fandoms that we loved. So, the Avengers A, the Haunted Mansion, the Millennium Falcon, the Shanghai Castle, the Pixar lamp, those things mattered to us. So it was very important that little pieces of us were scattered throughout the day. So we made sure that the ceremony to the entertainment, everything reflected back to who we are as a couple and where our story has taken us.
Got it. Were there any aspects that were less important where you saved your money or just your effort? You mentioned floral and decor.
Floral was definitely not, I'm not a floral person. Our florist knocked it out of the park and was amazing, but more power to the people who can do all the things and want all the florals. That's just not me. So that was where we definitely saved money. And then we also didn't add in any additional time. So we stuck with the standard timeline at the Swan Reserve. So instead of adding in an extra hour ahead of time or adding in extra time downstairs in a ballroom or anything like that, we stuck with the traditional time.
Okay. Now, did anything go wrong or just not turn out like you expected?
Everything went fantastic, even with having the hurricane come in before the wedding. and having to juggle people's travel plans or, changing numbers last minute, or me literally sitting on the floor redoing my seating chart a Monday night before the wedding. That wasn't anything that went wrong. It just was something that we had to get through. But every one of our vendors made sure that the day went exactly as planned. They went above and beyond. They sprinkled all kinds of pixie dust on us. They treated us like VIPs. Everything went so perfectly.
Fantastic. Is there any aspect of the wedding that seemed like a big deal beforehand or you were worried about and then turned out not to be a big deal?
I don't think so. Again, we had such an easy planning process with everything. And again, being in the industry, you kind of know the ins and outs and you kind of know what to expect. And my motto is expect the unexpected. You plan for the worst and hope for the best type of thing. Something's probably going to go wrong, but how you handle how it goes wrong, really, that's what shapes your day. So I guess we were always prepared for things to go wrong somewhere along the way, and nothing did. Everything was just so great. Everything was just so smooth with planning with the Swan Reserve. It was just so easy.
That's great to hear. Is there anything you know now that you wish you'd known then?
I would have wanted to stay at my reception longer. As someone who goes to a lot of weddings, I always feel like, 4-hour reception, it might seem like a long time. And from a guest perspective, I'm like, 3 hours is enough. That's plenty of time. We're going to eat. We have all this stuff going on. 3 hours is more than enough time for everyone to spend with us. And I feel like we didn't get enough time. And so I feel like looking back in hindsight, if I could do it again, I would have added that extra hour and I would have pushed everything up an hour to have that extra time on the dance floor, because Jenny was just so amazing. She kept everyone going. She kept everyone dancing. She had me behind the DJ booth at one point, and it was so much fun. Plus, we had Chopper out on the dance floor. So, that also is kind of epic and amazing. We had so much fun. We did not want the night to end. And I guess that's a good problem to have, right? It wasn't like we were looking forward to it being over. We wanted to keep the party going. But at the same time, I feel like it was an appropriate time for our guests. We just wanted all that extra time.
Do you have any other tips or advice for anyone considering an event at the Swan and Dolphin or at the View at the Swan Reserve? Maybe somebody who's looking for an alternative to a Disney's fairy tale wedding?
Book it. Do it. I cannot rave about them enough. Their service from the beginning of planning all the way through our wedding day, on top of just all the staff there, from housekeeping to concierge to the valet, when I emptied out a cart and said, this is all supposed to be picked up by the planner on Saturday, and they just stored it for us. They treated us like VIPs through the entire process. We were rarely told no. The only time we were told no is if it was a safety concern, like no cold sparklers or no fog on the dance floor because of, the fire alarms. So it's like, okay, that's legit. But when we asked for matcha cake, we were told yes. When we asked if we could bring our full-size droid in with us to the venue, they said yes. When we asked, for things, they went above and beyond. And that is how it should be when you're planning a wedding, that you feel like everyone is so invested in your wedding as much as you are. And that's really hard, because we all know that your wedding is the most important day to you, but you want those that are surrounding you to also treat your wedding day that special. And that's how we felt, from the private tastings to the pixie dust to just being handed Mickey bars while I'm watching fireworks. You're truly treated like a VIP. And that went a long way for us to recognize how much, love they gave us and how well they treated us and how well they treat all of our couples. We were there for our rehearsal Friday night, and there was another wedding going on Friday night, and they were also getting spoiled. It wasn't just us. They treat their couples really, really well. It's a fantastic alternative if you don't want to have a Disney fairy tale wedding. If you're looking for something that's kind of in the same price point, but you want a little bit more control, or you want a little bit more your yeses instead of nos, or for us, our planning team was our planning team the entire time, and they stuck with us and were absolutely phenomenal. So I cannot rave more about the Swan Reserve staff. And even when I've been a officiant over at a Swan and Dolphin wedding, they also treat everyone amazing that comes through there as well. So just all three of those properties are absolutely amazing, and definitely highly recommend getting more information and seeing if that's the right fit for you.
That's wonderful. Well, Randi, I think you've offered a lot of great tips and advice for anyone who's interested in getting married or having a vow renewal at the Swan and Dolphin, and I appreciate your taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
That's our show for today. I'm your host, Carrie Hayward, inviting you to join me again next week for another episode of the Disney Wedding Podcast. Past shows and tons of photos for each episode are available on my website, DisneyWeddingPodcast.com, or listen in your favorite podcast app. And for instant answers to all your Walt Disney World wedding questions, check out Carrie Hayward's Fairy Tale Weddings Guide, available as an interactive ebook with continual free updates at fairytaleweddingsguide.com.